is causing Western allies to suddenly turn on each other. There are many reasons why collaborating nations fight with former partners. It could be the result of issues stemming from political, economic, and territorial controls. But could there also be a biblical reason for the infighting?
For more, we're joined now by Scott Lucas, Professor of US and International Politics at the Clinton Institute at University College Dublin. Thanks so much for being with us this evening, Scott. So, Mark Carney's first overseas mission, as it were, what exactly prompted this trip? Is it simply because of the Trump factor, as one observer put it?
Well, I certainly think the Trump factor is part of this, but part of this is where Canada is vis-a-vis the United States versus Europe right now. And it is an important symbol that Mark Carney's first trip was not to Washington to see Donald Trump, but it was to see Keir Starmer in the UK and Emmanuel Macron in France. We have the immediate issue that Donald Trump does not see Canada as ally. He sees Canada as a territory to be bullied at the very least. And of course, if you take his statements at face value, Trump wants to take over Canada. Now, that's a great offense to Canadian nationalism. It's an offense to Canadian sovereignty, but it makes Canada rethink where its political and economic position is. And if the United States is not going to be your ally, who will be?
For weeks now, we've been faced with so much uncertainty coming from President Trump. Each day brings new tariff threats. Now, President Trump is threatening tariffs on steel and aluminum. He's pointing his finger at dairy and lumber, shifting timelines, different excuses, chaos and confusion. It's hurting workers, it's hurting businesses, it's hurting investments, and it's hurting families on both sides of the border. It needs to end. That's why I've been crystal clear. Until these tariffs are off the table, until the threat of tariffs is gone for good, Ontario will not relent.
Things are certainly stirring up between these nations who are supposed to be friends and allies. We're going to look at some of the things happening behind the scenes to explain why they are really at odds with each other, and then we'll look at the spiritual connection. The writer from this Newsweek article is saying that our allies must abandon America for their own good. He says the writing has been on the wall for some time, but our allies have been reluctant to read it. The United States, long the guarantor of the post-World War II liberal international order, has become an unreliable and even a potentially dangerous partner. For their own survival and prosperity, America's traditional allies must begin the difficult but necessary process of decoupling from U.S. global leadership. It goes on to say the latest demands from Washington to its allies read like a protection racket rather than diplomacy between friends. Denmark continues to face pressure to sell Greenland to the U.S., a sovereign territory whose residents overwhelmingly do not want to be under America's thumb. Mexico and Canada, our only two neighbors, have endured repeated threats of punitive tariffs that they have only delayed thus far by agreeing to what were largely symbolic concessions that will do little to actually stem the supply of illegal immigrants or drugs into our nation. Most egregiously, Ukraine, while fighting for its very existence, was just asked to surrender half its mineral wealth to the U.S. in exchange for continued military support against Russian aggression.
What took decades to build and is the envy of the world, a network of alliances that has kept the United States safe after World War II, is today, right now, shakier than at any other point. all because of the Trump administration. News breaking today of extraordinary discussions that weeks or months ago would have been unthinkable. NBC News has exclusive reporting that some of the United States' closest allies are talking about scaling back their intelligence sharing relationship with the United States. That includes the UK, Australia, Canada, New Zealand. It's also known as the Five Eyes Alliance. But it also includes Israel and Saudi Arabia, who are having these conversations. And it's because, quote, concerns about safeguarding foreign assets whose identities could inadvertently be revealed. One Western government official tells NBC News this, quote, there are serious discussions going on about what information can be shared with the U.S. The Five Eyes have always worked on the premise that we don't spy on each other. I don't think that's reliable anymore. Tulsi Gabbard and these other characters, I don't think we can have any degree of normalcy in the relationship. That's right now where we are, and I don't see any way that changes.
As you can see, America's loyalty to its partners is being scrutinized. Are we seeing Europeans returning to the feudal system once again? The fact that the other nations are now saying that they may not be able to trust the U.S. with sensitive information is very telling. They don't believe America is behaving like a trusted partner. So let's go back to the article. It says, these are not the actions of a responsible superpower, but rather the impulsive demands of a declining hegemon that has lost its way. Our allies must recognize this moment for what it is. Namely, they must come to terms with the fact that we are at the end of the American-led global order that was built in the wake of the Second World War. America can no longer be trusted to responsibly manage the international system it was principally responsible for creating. Just pause and think about that. It says, to be clear, this is about more than just President Donald Trump. It's about who Americans have shown themselves to be as a people. He says, our nation's electorate has demonstrated a repeated willingness to embrace a leader who views international relationships through the lens of extractive transactions rather than mutual benefit. Hence, our allies cannot simply wait this out in the hope that the next administration will be a return to normal. He says the sooner our allies accept that America can no longer be trusted with global leadership, the better prepared they'll be for the turbulent times ahead. While decoupling from U.S. leadership will be painful in the short term, remaining tethered to an increasingly unstable and predatory superpower poses far greater dangers. The post-war order built on American leadership is over, and in its wake, our allies must now build something new without us. He calls America a predatory superpower. That's brutal. A predator preys on the vulnerable. To say America is a predatory partner is saying that it will exploit and destroy those nations it's supposed to be in a relationship with. A lot of Americans are baffled and can't seem to understand why the U.S. has suddenly turned on its friends and neighbors. Well, this may explain it.
The Net Zero Industry Act will go hand in hand with the Critical Raw Materials Act. For rare earths, which are vital for manufacturing key technologies like wind power generation, hydrogen storage, you name it. Europe is today 98% dependent on one country, China. Or take lithium, with just 3 countries accounting for more than 90% of the lithium production, the entire supply chain has become incredibly tight. This has pushed up prices and is threatening our competitiveness, so we need to improve the refining, processing, and recycling of raw materials here in Europe. And in parallel, we will work with our trade partners to cooperate on sourcing, production, and processing to overcome the existing monopoly. To do this, we can build a critical raw materials club, working with like-minded partners from the United States to Ukraine to collectively strengthen supply chains and to diversify away from single monopoly. This is pillar one, speed and access through the Net Zero Industry Act.
So European nations are in a race to develop viable sources of rare earth elements. And who's leading the pack? China. Let's look at this from 7 key insights. It says China dominates the global supply of rare earth minerals, while the United States has lost its competitive edge due to higher production costs, stringent environmental restrictions, and a lack of long-term industrial strategy. However, the U.S. and Australia are working together to break China's grip on the rare earth elements market. So China is holding the winning hand right now. And now we see America turning on its partners, namely Canada. This article from Natural Resources Canada may provide some insights. Listen to this. Canada is home to some of the largest known reserves of rare earth elements, estimated at over 15.2 million tons of rare earth oxide as of 2023. These elements are crucial for green technologies, including electric vehicles and renewable energy systems. And the Canadian government is actively investing in the development of its rare earth mining and processing capabilities to reduce reliance on imports from China. Recently, Canada opened its first commercial rare earth elements refinery, marking a significant step in the country's efforts to establish a domestic supply chain for these critical materials. Hopefully you see what's happening here. Canada got the jump on the United States. So when this president says they have nothing America needs, don't believe it. Let's dig a little deeper into this. This information comes from Cosmine Intelligence. It's entitled Rare Earths Exploration Across the Americas in Charts. It says, with China dominant in the mining and processing of rare earths, the West faces a daunting task to build supply chains of the critical minerals independent of the Asian superpower. The northern miner wanted to find out how the countries of the Americas are faring in exploring and developing the 17 rare metals vital in the manufacturing of cellular phones, computers, and magnets for green energy technologies and electric vehicles. To help paint a clearer picture of the activity, we turn to our data provider, Mining Intelligence. According to the Mining Intelligence database, there are 132 rare earth projects in North and South America, ranging from prospecting to production. Of the total, 37 projects are in the advanced exploration to production stages. The majority of the projects, 51%, are in exploration. Only 18% have some level of economic study or are in permitting construction or reproduction. Now this part is important, don't miss this. It says, who owns the projects? The ownership of rare earths projects in the Americas mirrors their location, with almost 2/3 or 64% of the projects held by Canadian companies. Projects owned by American and Australian companies are at 14 and 13% respectively. The rest of the projects are owned by companies headquartered in Brazil, Chile, and Japan. Do you see? This has nothing to do with a trade war over the products they're fighting about. It has everything to do with what they're not talking about. And it's so important that it's worth turning a friend into an enemy. And what happens when it escalates? You fill in the blank. So now it says, where are the projects? Geographically, rare describes the elements and the mining activity because exploration and development is occurring in only 7 countries, including Canada. More than 2/3 of all rare earth activity in the Americas is in Canada, with more than half at the exploration stage. They got the jump on the United States and they're more advanced in this area. It says 8 have PEAs, 6 are in advanced exploration, and 2 each are in pre-feasibility and feasibility stages. Only 1 is classified as producing. As it does with lithium, Quebec hosts the majority of rare earths projects in the country, with 35, most of which are in exploration. Ontario and Newfoundland have the second and third highest number of projects. Interesting, right? Listen to this. It says after Canada, the United States hosts the most rare earth projects at 24, mostly in the west and southeast or southwest, with a few in southern states such as Arkansas and Tennessee. Now let's just listen to some information from this article, 7 Key Insights. It's a case study entitled Mountain Pass, California, a model for U.S. rare earth mining. So it says Mountain Pass represents a beacon of hope for domestic rare earth production. After years of dormancy, the site has been revitalized through significant private investment and technological improvements. It says Mountain Pass Materials has transformed Mountain Pass into a competitive rare earth production facility. While challenges remain, the site demonstrates the potential for rebuilding U.S. rare earth capabilities through strategic investment and technological innovation. So it says the rare earth supply chain is a critical issue for U.S. economic and national security. So this is a national security issue, it's saying. While progress is being made through government initiatives, new mining projects, and investment in refining technologies, significant challenges remain. Reducing dependence on China will require a multifaceted approach, from policy shifts to technological advancements. Now, I found this article from the Las Vegas Review-Journal, and it's interesting. It's entitled, Mine Near Las Vegas Produces Much of World's Rare Earth Materials. So it says Mountain Pass is a rare earth mine located in California, approximately 53 miles southwest of Las Vegas, Nevada. It says the Chinese dominate rare earth supply, and if they decide to turn that cap off, where are we going to get our rare earth from? So it says if you have the supply at Mountain Pass, that doesn't need to be exported to China, but could go straight into manufacturing. Then that would rapidly improve security of supply because rare earths are used in military purposes. So the author says, so I think the Department of Defense is a little concerned about China cutting off supply. So it says our mission is to restore the full rare earth supply chain here in the United States so that, listen, the Tesla, GM, and Apples of the world have a choice of an American supplier. Right now, their choices are mainly a Chinese supplier, and another Chinese supplier, he said. So they have to shore things up. It says Mountain Pass Materials set up its headquarters in Las Vegas near McCarran International Airport to be near the mine and its workforce of mostly Nevadians. The company spent 3 years restarting the site and adding employees. Its total workforce is 350, including the 300 employees at the mine. Meanwhile, this article from Las Vegas Sun is talking about how the wildfire fueled homeowners' insurance, and this was a crisis discussed at the Las Vegas Summit. So it says speakers at a meeting of the Western Governors Association on Tuesday in Las Vegas blamed the surge, at least in part, on climate change and an associated increase in wildfires. The changing climate has really created one of the most challenging home insurance markets that we've experienced, Colorado Governor Jared Polis said. That increasing cost of homeowners insurance is a top-line issue for livability in the West. And then we have this article from Las Vegas Weekly. It says, with thousands displaced by LA fires, Las Vegas could be a destination for climate migration. The Eaton fire destroyed over 9,000 homes, structures, and businesses and claimed 17 lives, according to CAL FIRE. It joined the Palisades fire, which burned concurrently through more than 23,000 acres, as one of the deadliest and most destructive fires in California's history. So Rebecca Rice, an assistant professor of communication studies at UNLV, who specializes in crisis communications and natural disaster response, views these catastrophes as a sign of the times. Why is she saying it's a sign of the times? Because she says our past understanding of fire behavior is changing. The thought was, if I live in an urban area, I'm safe from wildfire, right? And if I live in the woods, I'm obviously at more risk. But we're seeing fires that are so extreme and winds that are so extreme that they are blowing embers into urban areas, and fires are spreading faster through urban communities than before. She says LA is not the first place to experience that, and I think that's starting to happen, particularly in the western US, where we thought that there were rules about how fire behaved. Now the rules are changing. So they know that something strange is happening with these fires. It's not normal. Maybe they can't see the bigger picture.
It's my honor to welcome 3 of the world's leading technology CEOs. And in the case of Larry Ellison, it's well beyond technology. He's sort of CEO of everything. He's an amazing man, an amazing business person. But to announce the largest AI infrastructure project by far in history, and it's all taking place right here in America. As you know, there's great competition for AI and other things, and they're coming in at the highest level. We're joined by Oracle Executive Chairman Larry Ellison, SoftBank CEO, my friend Masa Yoshi-san, and CEO of OpenAI, and I would say the by far the leading expert based on everything I read, Sam Altman. So that's great that you're coming. in together. That's a massive group of talent and money. Together, these world-leading technology giants are announcing the formation of Stargate. So put that name down in your books, because I think you're going to hear a lot about it in the future. A new American company that will invest $500 billion at least in AI infrastructure in the United States, and very, very quickly, moving very rapidly, creating over 100,000 American jobs almost immediately. This monumental undertaking is a resounding declaration of confidence in America's potential under a new president. Let me be a new president. I didn't say it, they did. So I appreciate that, fellas. But it'll ensure the future of technology. What we want to do is we want to keep it in this country. China is a competitor and others are competitors. We want it to be in this country, and we're making it available. I'm going to help a lot through emergency declarations, because we have an emergency. We have to get this stuff built. So they have to produce a lot of electricity, and we'll make it possible for them to get that production done very easily at their own plants if they want, where they'll build at the plant, the AI plant, they'll build energy generation, and that will be incredible. But it's technology and artificial intelligence, all made in the USA. Beginning immediately, Stargate will be building the physical and virtual infrastructure to power the next generation of advancements in AI, and this will include the construction of colossal data centers, very, very massive structures.
Now, to make Stargate a reality, they will certainly need non-renewable resources. So this article is talking about the top 5 most commonly used and their impact on the planet. So what are non-renewable resources? They are natural resources that cannot be replenished or regenerated in a short amount of time. Once they're used up, they are gone forever. These resources are typically extracted from the earth through mining or drilling, and they are used as fuel or raw materials for various industries. And you can clearly see number 4, rare earth elements. It's one of the non-renewable resources.
We're telling Ukraine they have very valuable rare earth. We want what we put up to go in terms of a guarantee. We want a guarantee. We're handing them money hand over fist. We're giving them equipment. European is not keeping up with us. They should equalize. And look, we have an ocean in between. They don't. It's more important for them than it is for us. But they're way below us in terms of money. And they should be paying at least equal. They should really be paying much more than us. But let's say equal to us. And they're billions and billions of dollars below. So we're looking to do a deal with Ukraine where they're going to secure what we're giving them with their rare earth and other things.
So we see that things are going on behind the scenes that's causing nations who were once friends and allies to turn on each other. And at the root of it is greed and the lust for power. You all are smart people, so I'm sure that you can see what's not being said here. This article from heritage.org entitled "The Competitive Advantages and Risk of Alliances" is telling us that these friendships mean little when the partners involved are predators. Let's read some of this to see how the European alliance began. It says, to understand alliances today, we need first to understand how we got here. Thucydides tells us that alliances have been an enduring feature of war and conflict for thousands of years. Multilateral military arrangements allow states and their historical analogs to aggregate their capabilities and collaborate on common security challenges. Since the signing of the Treaty of Tordesillas between Spain and Portugal in 1494, an event that some strategic scholars point to as the beginning of the modern global system, alliances have been formed between nation states and their proxies in order to wage war against common adversaries. Alliances at that time were essentially agreements by European empires to combine military and economic assets in pursuit of political objectives. The European continent was the stage for many of these conflicts between states. However, colonies provided both critical resources as well as logistical bases for European capitals. And as global empires gradually expanded and grew in strategic importance, European territories around the world were drawn into supporting these alliances and were themselves made the subject of imperial competition. So it says the world wars during the first half of the 20th century brought the imperial system of global order crashing down. What caused the imperial system of global order to crash? It was the world wars, World Wars I and II. It goes on to say the European colonial powers no longer had the wherewithal either to maintain their global possessions or to lead the international system. As the United States became the dominant global power in the wake of those wars, it shaped the global system in a manner more consistent with its own anti-imperial values. It did this by building its security and strategic relationships in two primary ways: through formal strategic political institutions, such as the United Nations and NATO, and by working with newly sovereign states rather than by taking over the possession of colonial territories. But we're seeing a shift. America is now displaying the imperialistic tendencies. It always had a desire to extend its power and influence over non-European or Western powers, but now we see that it's trying to extend its power over its friends and allies. They want to take Canada and Greenland. So now we see rhetoric like this from the conversation: how Putin, Xi, and now Trump are ushering in a new imperial age. It says, over the past few weeks, the new U.S. President Donald Trump has repeatedly claimed that the United States should take back the Panama Canal and that it should assume control of Greenland one way or another. He has talked of Canada becoming America's 51st state, and now he even wants to take over the Gaza Strip to convert it into a Riviera on the eastern Mediterranean. It's as if the U.S. president believes that his country should be an empire. In this, Trump seems to be emulating China's Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin of Russia, leaders he has said he admires and who have themselves shown some clear imperial tendencies in recent years. I think we can clearly see the imperialistic tendencies at work here. Before, America was extending power and dominion over the territories of the melanated people. Now it's doing it to its friends. Let's go on. The article says, what is striking is that Putin, Xi, and Trump all use fierce nationalist rhetoric to justify their imperialist designs. Putin, as we have seen, claims the indivisibility of Ukraine and Russia and blames Nazis for trying to turn Russia's sister state towards the West. Xi, in turn, often maintains that communist China has finally overcome the century of humiliation in which the country was the plaything of foreign powers. The U.S. case seems to be more complex, but in fact is very similar. Thus, Trump argues that the Panama Canal, which has long been administered by the U.S., was foolishly returned to Panama by Jimmy Carter and claims that it is now controlled by China. He will, he says, return it to the U.S. Trump also refers to America's manifest destiny, the 19th century belief that American settlers were destined to expand to the Pacific coast. These days, his aspirations are northwards rather than to the west. The president also wants to plant the U.S. flag on Mars, taking his imperial dreams into outer space. And of course, you know who's leading the charge to go to Mars, right? Elon Musk. But what are we really looking at here? Is prophecy being fulfilled? Are the nations who try to eradicate our people now turning on each other and destroying themselves? Listen to this from Exodus 14:14. The Most High will fight for you, and you shall hold your peace. Who was Moses talking to? He was speaking to the children of Israel. Pharaoh's mighty army was coming after them. The Israelites looked like sitting ducks. They had no defense. If you looked at it in the natural, it was a lost cause, but it was actually a setup for Abba Yah's ultimate plan against the people who had enslaved his people. What seemed like a hopeless situation was a strategic plan being put in place. World leaders think they have a master plan, but something else is going on behind the scenes. They will end up destroying each other and reap what they have sown. So I said in a previous lesson that we need to look at what they're doing through a filter and then see what Abba Yah is doing behind the scenes. They are going to fall into the traps they set for us. We just have to make sure that we keep our eyes on our Father. This is not our fight. We're going to look at another passage from 2 Chronicles 20 through 23 to see what happened when enemies rose up against the kingdom of Judah. It says, "So they rose early in the morning and went out into the wilderness of Tekoa, and as they went out, Jehoshaphat stood and said, Hear me, O Judah, and you inhabitants of Jerusalem. Believe in the Most High Yah, and you shall be established. Believe his prophets, and you shall prosper. And when he had consulted with the people, he appointed those who should sing to the Most High, and who should praise the beauty of holiness as they went out before the army, and were saying, Praise the Most High, for his mercy endures forever. Now when they began to sing and to praise, the Most High set ambushes against the people of Ammon, Moab, and Mount Seir, who had come against Judah, and they were defeated. For the people of Ammon and Moab stood up against the inhabitants of Mount Seir to utterly kill and destroy them. And when they had made an end of the inhabitants of Seir, they helped to destroy one another. You see here that the Most High caused them to fight against each other. But if you missed what happened in the beginning of the chapter, you won't get the full picture. So it tells us here in 2 Chronicles 21 through 4 that when Jehoshaphat, the king of Judah, heard that the Ammonites and Moabites and others they brought with them, to include the Edomites, were coming against his kingdom, it says he was fearful. So verse 2, it says, Then some came and told Jehoshaphat, saying, A great multitude is coming against you from beyond the sea, from Syria, and they are in Hazazon Tamar, which is En Gedi. And Jehoshaphat feared, and set himself to seek the Most High, and proclaimed a fast throughout all Judah. So Judah gathered together to ask help from the Most High. And from all the cities of Judah they came to seek the Most High. What was his solution for fear? He put himself in a position to seek the Most High. He got himself right. Then he proclaimed a fast, brought the people together to pray and ask for help from their warrior. When the enemy comes against us, the first thing is to have the proper response to fear, because the enemy wants to put on a show and cause you to be so fearful that you will look for natural means to deliver yourself. Jehoshaphat had multiple nations coming against him and his people. It's enough to fight against one army, but now you're talking about 4 different groups. Now, as you continue reading verses 5 through 9, you'll see that the king, Jehoshaphat, wisely humbled himself before the Most High, and his actions made it clear to the people that he was not trying to fight against the enemy in his own strength. He wanted them to see that he was relying on the Most High for their deliverance. So he consecrated himself and then prayed in the appropriate manner. He began by acknowledging his King, the Most High Yah, and his greatness, his power and might over all the kingdoms of the nations. He began to rehearse the things that Abba Yah had done before for his people, and then he evoked the words of the covenant, the promise given to us. Listen to what it says in verse 9. You said, Abba, if disaster comes upon us, sword, judgment, pestilence, or famine, we will stand before this temple and in your presence, for your name is in this temple, and cry out to you in our affliction, and you will hear and save. So again, you see that salvation is not a New Testament concept. As you continue reading, you'll see that after Jehoshaphat recited the mighty works of our Father and how he had delivered us before from the hands of our enemies, he asked the Most High to judge those who were coming against his people. Now you see an appeal to the Most High as the righteous judge. Not only is he our Father and King, he's the judge. Jehoshaphat says here are our enemies, people you would not let us fight against when we came out of Egypt, and now they want to throw us out of our possession. What was he doing? He was making a case before the Most High and asking him to give a ruling on the matter and then give him a strategy. Listen to what he says in verse 11. He says, O Most High, will you not judge them? For we have no power against this great multitude that is coming against us, nor do we know what to do, but our eyes are upon you. Now all Judah, with their little ones, their wives, and their children, stood before the Most High. Then the Spirit of the Most High came upon Jahaziel, the son of Zechariah, the son of Benaiah, the son of Jeiel, the son of Mathaniah, a Levite of the sons of Asaph, in the midst of the assembly. And listen to what Yah says. And he said, listen, all you Judah, and you inhabitants of Jerusalem, and you, King Jehoshaphat, thus says the Most High to you, do not be afraid, nor dismayed because of this great multitude. For the battle is not yours, but Yah's. In other words, don't fret. I got this. Now, as you go on and read verse 22 through 23, you see in 22 where it says, Now they began to sing and to praise. Then the Most High set ambushes against the people of Ammon, Moab, and Mount Seir, who had come against Judah, and they were defeated. Do you see that it was after they put themselves in the right position to hear and receive from the Most High that the answer came? It was the solution, the strategy. This is why they're rejoicing. Now they can move forward in confidence and faith because their response to the enemy came from the Most High. It didn't come from the whims of someone who thought of a good idea that could possibly work. This is why they're singing and praising the Most High. And what did he do as a result? He set an ambush against their enemies and made them fight each other. Listen to what it says. The people of Ammon and Moab stood up against the inhabitants of Mount Seir to utterly kill and destroy them. And when they had made an end of the inhabitants of Seir, they helped to destroy one another. Now that couldn't be anything but our Father. These nations had banded together. They were allies. And all of a sudden, they're taking each other out. We need Abba Yah's strategy, family. His way is perfect. It's sure. There will always be those who can come up with a good idea. But at the end of the day, we have to answer this question. Who will get the glory from it? If it's not the Most High and the Most High alone, then we need to leave it alone. Is that not blatant disrespect? How can you say he is our king and our warrior, but we don't seek him for the strategy when we're under attack? We have to do it his way. When it comes to our deliverance, we can't leave anything to chance. It's Yah's way or the wrong way. Hopefully this message has been a blessing to you. Please like and share. You're also welcome to subscribe if you have not already done so. We normally upload messages on Sunday mornings at 8:30 a.m. Yah willing. Join me next time.